Hey beautiful people, welcome back. So for those who don't know, my name is Jessie. I am a life coach and I do videos on self-love, self-healing, self-development, self-improvement, and just finding yourself, just finding grounding within your life, finding peace, finding tranquility, and help people navigate through the chaos they find themselves involved in. So in my last video, I actually touched upon my own situation. We recently lost my mom, and I was speaking about that whole situation and how the scenario played out. I spoke about the whole story from beginning to end, and one of the reasons why I shared a lot of the detail is because new videos that I have up and coming, especially the one I'm making today, is going to be piggybacking off of that storyline. So in order for you to understand this video, you have to go watch that one first. So if you haven't done that, go watch that first, because today we're going to be talking about emotions that people usually experience after losing someone, especially after losing them during COVID, and how to basically get to a point that you have forgiveness for yourself, forgiveness for others, and be able to move past that. So today I'm going to be sharing my own personal story in regards to things that I struggled with, and it had a lot to do with COVID and you know, how I was able to release that. So the first thing I think I experienced, the first emotion I experienced was a little bit of guilt. And it was guilt in like different ways. So one thing I touched upon in my first video was the fact that my sister wanted to go to the hospital. So I'm not going to go into the full detail, like I said, a lot of the details in the first video, but she had mentioned like we should go to the hospital as soon as she found out what was going on with my mom. And I actually was the one who was like, no, I think we should just kind of stay put. We should just, you know, wait to hear back from the doctor. So we want to make sure that we, you know, we are available when they call us to tell us what's going on. So of course, because of COVID, that was the big and main and only reason I was thinking like that. So of course, after everything went down and we found out what happened, and we found out that she actually had passed away, one of the first things my sister had said is, I wish I would have left when I first found out. In her mind, she believes that if we would have left right away, we would have got to see my mom alive, because by the time we got to the hospital, she was gone. And so I remember her saying that to me, you know, afterwards we were kind of discussing everything that happened. She's like, I knew it, I should have left, I should have left, I should have left. And I think that was the first emotion I experienced, was a little bit of guilt. I felt a little bit of responsibility. Like, if it wasn't for me saying, let's stay behind, yeah, maybe everybody would have been able to see her and you know, to see her living. So that was the first thing that I felt like, oh man, the first mistake I felt like I made. I felt like I was too calm, too grounded, you know, and maybe not grounded in reality. And so that kind of like hit me, right? And because of that, one of the things that I actually went through after my mom's passing was I suffered a little bit of PTSD, and it was because of that situation. So afterwards, you know, COVID was everywhere, right? We were hearing about it all over the place, and I am one who, I don't live in fear. I was taking it seriously. I was taking precautions, but I was just not like fearful of it. I didn't think it was gonna hit anyone I knew and things of that sort, right? But then that actually started slowly happening. Like I said, we don't know if my mom passed from COVID. It's a possibility. It was never ruled out. She was never tested. But there was others after my mom's passing who just started dropping like flies, and it was happening all around me. And I've never really dealt with death, especially on this scale. I don't think anybody has dealt with the amount of death that we have had to deal with prior to this year. Like, I think normally when someone passes, you might hear, you know, a person passed here, a person passed there, right? It might be someone you know, someone related to you, or someone related to someone you know. But I don't know about everyone else, but there's a good amount of people that I personally knew that they were just getting hit left and right. Like, this person's aunt died, this person's grandmother died, this person's mother died, this person's child passed away. And it just started becoming very heavy on the person who was hearing it. And that was exactly what happened to me. I started just suffering from like little forms of PTSD. So I remember shortly after my mom's death, I couldn't find my brother and my father. I was like calling them, and they were not picking up the phone. And I had this feeling, like this gut feeling, like something was wrong. And I went completely into panic mode. Like I jumped in my car. So one thing I mentioned in that other video is the distance that I live away from my parents and my brother and, you know, my close family members. And that day I was thinking, like, should I go over there? Should I not? Should I go over there? Should I not? And then I just started thinking about everything that happened and how I was like nonchalant when my mom passed away. And then it just like hit me like, I gotta go, I gotta get out of here. And that's exactly like the way I felt. Like I was just like, I gotta go. I stopped where I stopped what I was doing. I jumped in my car and I drove all the way to where they were, which was, like I mentioned, a pretty long distance. And I almost got into a car accident. I almost went on a passageway that was blocked. And I wind up almost in like a horrific accident. When I tell you that my angels and my guides and my mom was there for me, it was no joke. Because if I would have actually, you know, hit what I was almost going to hit, I think I would have been not here doing this video. That's how I think horrific that accident would have been. But I was just such in a panic that something was going to happen and I was not going to be there. That's where it kind of like the PTSD kind of set in. It was like a trigger of, okay, this is what you did before, you don't want to do this again, so you have to go. It was just my feelings towards the situation was extremely exaggerated. I got so many people involved. I was calling like friends nearby, like, can you please go over there, go to my family's house? I had them like looking through windows, being like a stalker, a peeping Tom, just to make sure there was light on, they were there, because it was just something that they normally wouldn't do. They will always respond, and since they weren't responding, it just put me in a frenzy. So that was one incident. And then I had another incident where I had an old co-worker I used to work with, and he's a little bit older, and so he wasn't responding to our calls, and we were keeping in contact all throughout COVID, and we were texting one another and we were calling one another just to check in with one another and make sure everything was good. And when we could not find him, when I say we, it was me and another co-worker of his involved, I went into a panic. I think we both did, actually. We both did. She was in a panic. She started, you know, making me go into a panic. And I felt that feeling again, like, you know, uh-oh, something's terribly wrong. And I'm taking too long. I'm just being nonchalant. And I need to act. And so that was going on for a couple of weeks. And then, you know, good thing I'm very into mental health that I realized it right away and realized, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, the way you're reacting to these situations are extremely exaggerated. You need to calm down a little. And then I realized, like, it was like a trigger. And it, you know, once I believed like I was not gonna be there, it started just, you know, pushing me forward into this panic. And so that was something I had to address and take some time and just, you know, calm my own self down, calm my, you know, own anxieties. And that's exactly what it was. It was an anxiety. It was just full of anxiety and full of this belief that I was not going to be there. This person, something was going to happen to them, and I was not going to be able to talk to them or be around them or see them, and it's because I didn't act quick enough. So that happens a lot after a person passes away, and I think a lot of people were experiencing things similar because of, you know, our situation that we kind of were just thrown into. Like, COVID was something just, and it's still around. So COVID has been something that's just been unprecedented, right? We've never seen something of this magnitude. That's not to say that we haven't had pandemics, right? But we haven't had it on this large scale that has affected us directly. And when I say us on like on the East Coast, because that's where I'm at, to this degree. It's been like, whoa, you know, what is this? You know, scientists don't know what it was. You know, health officials were just in a panic. We didn't know how to combat it. We still don't know how to combat it. Let's just be real. Let's be honest. It's been a lot of direction and misinformation, a lot of confusion, and we all been just trying to do our best to get through it. And you know, going back to where I originally started was that feeling of I didn't react quick enough. And so that was something, you know, I kind of went through. I had a little bit of guilt because I felt like I held my siblings back, and or at least my sister, because my brother was in a different state of we shouldn't go to the hospital because we don't know what happened. And then with that kind of trailblazed into, you know, my mom passed away in the hospital by herself, and we weren't there. We weren't there. We should have been there. In my mind, we should have been there. And there's never a reason, I feel like, not to be there for your parents. That's my belief system. So that was a hard thing I had to kind of deal with, but I also had to come to a realization that I acted on the knowledge I had at that time, and that's the way I came over that emotion. Like, I was able to get that emotion, I was able to master it and kind of put it in check, and be able to forgive myself for the actions that I did, because I didn't know any better, right? We just didn't know any better. We were just all over the place with misinformation, and we were just going by, or I was going by what I knew at the time. And that happens a lot just in life in general. I think a lot of people make decisions based off the information they knew at that time, based off the skill set they knew at that time, based on the knowledge they knew at that time. And it comes to a point where we realize, you know, we didn't make or we think we didn't make the best decision, and then we get all this inner conflict with our own selves, right? We're battling our own selves, our own ego, our own conscience, because we believe we should have known better, right? But the way you always combat that is to really think, right? Did I do this, you know, my action, my behavior, was it out of malice, or was it out of just not having the knowledge base that I have now, right? So like I said, I think a lot of people during COVID has been going through that. They felt like they made bad decisions, wrong decisions, and we were just doing the best that we can possibly do, right? We're just working with what we got, and when you know better, you do better. And that's always a principle to apply to everyone's life and everyone's situation if you're struggling with something, right? And so that's one emotion that I definitely felt, and I had to combat. And that feeling, I felt like I already knew that deep down in my core, so it wasn't something that kept me trapped for too long. But the next thing I dealt with, it kept me trapped for a very long time. And to be honest, I still to this day, I think about it, you know. I think about, could things have been different? And the way that emotion came about is because, and I spoke about this on the, like I said, in the first video, so you got to kind of check out the first video, is my mom, she left. And after she left my house, she called me, like, I don't know, like 2 days later after I dropped her off, and she was like, okay, come pick me up. I'm ready to come, you know, I'm ready to go back with you. And not once, but she called me twice. And she called me probably a week after the first call. So during the first conversation, when she called me to tell me that she was ready to come back, I was mean. I was upset. I was upset with her when she left to begin with, because I didn't want her to go. I felt like she was safer with me. I could have kept her safer. That's the way I felt. And so when she left, I was upset. You know, I packed her in a hurry, and you know, I just like got in the car and I was like, fine, you want to go home? I'll take you home. But something happened during that car ride that has never happened before, and I'll speak about it on a different video because I don't think this is the video to speak about it on. But I had you know, a specific conversation with her during that car ride, and then when I left her, you know, I hugged her, and for me, I was not gonna see her for a while, you know. And I made her aware of that. So like, if I bring you home, I take you home, you're going to stay there. One was because I was a little bit angry, but the other reason was because I wanted her to stay safe. I felt by coming back and forth and traveling and stopping to get gas, and I always have to stop to get gas, even if I get gas on my way to her, because she's a long distance. So these things I couldn't prevent, and I felt like all that stuff was putting her at risk, and my ultimate goal was to try to protect her. And I spoke a little bit about her history, and that's why I try to protect her, because of her history. So dealing with her was very different than dealing with a regular person, because she had past history with her health. And I talk about that, like I said, on the first video. Yeah, so when she called me telling me she wanted to come get picked up, I was like, I am not going to go get you. And I was not nice about it, because I felt like I made it very, very clear to her of, you know, what it meant to take her home, and I didn't want it to be like a joke. And the thing with my mom is, and I laugh about it, because she didn't respect boundaries. Like, you would place a boundary in front of her and she'd just like, whatever. She could be a bit manipulative. And when she wants something, she would get it, right? And that's the way it kind of was with her. So when she left, I had to like stand my ground. I was like, no, I'm standing my ground, because this is the way my mom was. And you know, you had to kind of set boundaries for her, for her best, and also for my best, you know. But I struggled with that, because after she passed away, of course, I felt like I should have went to go get her. If I would have gone to go get her, you know, would things have been different? You know, it's just one of those things that you always wonder. And no matter how much, like, I feel like deep down in my core, things would have not been different, it still makes me emotional to think, well, what if it could have been, you know? And, you know, it's a hard feeling to combat. And I talked about this on my first video, when you make decisions and, you know, you really, when you think about it, did those decisions equate to the person's demise, right? Like, the stuff that you did you help in the reason why they're not here now? And like I said, it's a hard feeling to get over it. It's just like, it's like a sense of guilt, like you're responsible, right? But the truth of the matter is, you know, I cry over it because, you know, I miss my mom. The truth of the matter is that we just don't have that much power. You know, I think we give ourselves so much power, as if we could change someone else's fate. And the truth of the matter is, I think deep down inside, I know this, is the answer is no, right? No, 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 no. If I would have gone to go get her, I think my inner core, my inner knowing tells me that it would have not happened there. It would have probably happened here, right? I feel like what's meant for you will always find you, including, you know, death. We can't cheat it, and we never have more knowledge than our higher being, right? We just don't. So by me not going to go get her, even if, let's say, she, God forbid, she had COVID, and I would have been able to dodge that bullet at this time, I think eventually it would have been a short time afterwards that we would have most likely lost my mom. And I talked a little bit about that in the first video too, about you know, she was battling, her kidneys were failing. She was starting to battle kidney disease. So for me, I feel like the ending for her, her story was coming to an end, regardless. But that was a feeling that really took a strong hold on me, and it started really taking me down. And it took a lot of inner strength for me to be able to get out of that pain that I was inflicting on myself, of this belief that I could change things. Because at the end of the day, she was with me, and I remember my brother insisting. He was so angry when I told him that she was going back and I was taking her back. And one thing that he told me was, keep her with you. Just keep her. Just ignore what she wants and just keep her with you. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. Like, she's a grown woman, you know? While I did help my mom a lot with a lot of, you know, her struggles and limitations within life, and you know, as parents get older, just in general, their mental capacity starts to slip. You know, the things that they were physically able to do, they can't do it anymore. You know, they get confused easily, and people try to manipulate and try to take advantage of them. So for me, I was always try to be at that forefront, to be there for my mom and make sure that that doesn't happen. So it felt like I had a lot of power over her, or over her life, but I tried to never abuse that power. So meaning, if she was here and she wanted to go home and that's what she wanted, then I was going to take her home. You know, it's like that was her wish. Who am I to say, no, you can't go home? Who am I to say you have to stay here? That's the way I felt about it. But that was, you know, a feeling I really, really, really had to release from myself. And it was a battle. And I had a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of crying and a lot of heartbreak over that. Did that one decision change everything? Could it have changed the trajectory of her path, right? By me not going to get her and not going to get her quicker, was she exposed to COVID by doing things on her own? Because, you know, my mom didn't listen. She was hard-headed. She just didn't listen, you know. It's like when she went back, she was out going food shopping, even though I would tell her, you know what, I even from here I could do it, you know, let me order it for you online, and then I could, you know, send it over there and things of that sort, or I can buy it for you and then I'll drop it off. But no, she wanted to do it herself, right? She didn't want to feel like a burden, and I can understand that, right? She wanted to do it on her own. She wanted to go get her own food. When she wanted to mail something, she's like, oh, I'm just gonna go and just drop it off at the post office. And yes, those things are very minimal and we want to have a good quality of life, but once again, for her it was very different because she was very fragile. She was very, very, very fragile, and her health restrictions were huge. They were huge, even though she was stable at the moment. But yeah, that's one thing that really, really, really took control of me, and the way I was really able to just restrict myself and get free from that guilt, and that loop and that story I kept telling. Like, it was playing in my head, like almost like, you did this, you know, you did this, you know, if you would have gone to go get her, things would have been different. And then I was upset with myself because of the way I spoke to her, right? I was really angry. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna go get you, and you're gonna stay there because I told you, you know, I explained this to you, you do this all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go get you. And of course, after she passed, I felt horrible about that. But one thing that did happen is, before she passed, is, like I said, she called me twice to ask to come back and for me to go pick her up. And my mom didn't drive, so she really had to rely on me to go get her. And when she called the second time, I was just in a better place. Like, I just let those feelings, that anger and, you know, of her leaving kind of just pass through me. So by the time she called me and asked the second time, I was in a different space. And you know, I had spoke to her in a calm, more respectful manner, and I explained to her, you know, instead of like being upset and hiring my voice and yelling at her, I explained to her this time around why we had to wait, right? I was able to ground myself and tell her, you know what, Ma, you know, I will go get you. I told her I am gonna go get you, but let's just wait. You know, I told her let's let a week pass by. I was actually working on a project to bring in more stability in for myself at that time, and I was going to launch the project. It was getting close to launching it, and so I was working very rigorously on it. And it was hard for me to work on any projects when she was around, because like I said, I did a lot for her. So when she was here, I would do, you know, cooking for her. I would run her baths because she used to have like pains within her hands, and she didn't have like as much strength in her hands and things like that. So I would actually run baths and prepare like bubble baths and things like that for her. I used to be like her entertainment because she would get bored easily. I don't have cable in my house, and so she's not used to that. So I would be like her entertainment, and I would cheer her up, and we would have conversations. We'll play board games, we will play crossword puzzles, and you know, just spend quality time with her. So when she was here, all my time was dedicated primarily to her, 100% of it. So it was very hard for me to focus on anything else. It's just like a project that required my focus. It was something I was going to launch, so I wanted it to be you know, of quality work. You know, this is something that's going to be attached to my name. It's something that's going to be attached to my business. It's something that, you know, I wanted to leave as a legacy. So it was very important to me that I do it right. And so I had explained that to her, you know, I'm working on this project. She knew. I was like, you know, I'm working on the project and I'm almost finishing up. So it's like, let's take a week. Let me take the time to finish up. You know, meantime, you could take that time to go through all your medications, make sure you have enough, like whatever you don't have, you know, make sure to call the doctor or give it to my brother so he can call the doctor and get that stuff in for her, or at least ordered so we wouldn't be without medication, because when she comes with me, she would have came with me for weeks, sometimes months. So I wanted to make sure she was set. And, I told her, start packing, get all that stuff ready. So when I come, all that stuff is ready, and you have like a week to do, so you don't have to rush. Because my mom suffered from anxiety. So she would just get very overwhelmed. And when she couldn't do something, she used to get down on herself, because, she was limited. So I was happy that I just did get that chance, and I was able to have enough discipline within myself and realize, how I spoke to her that first time, and I was able to retrieve it back and then tell her, this is why, and this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna form a plan, and I am going to go get you. So she was under the knowledge, and she did pack, like, after she passed, when I went back to her house, her suitcase was there all packed, ready to come with me, but that, like I said, that feeling made it feel worse, because I'm like, man, I should have went to go get her. But like I said, we never ever have that much power. We are not God. We are not of a higher being, or whoever you believe in. We just don't have that power. We're just merely these human beings here trying to live an experience, and we just don't have that much power over someone else's fate. And once you come to understand that, and come to understand that the way things are, it's going to be the way it is. Like, just cannot change that hand of faith. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially when they lose someone. Like, the should've, the could've. What if I would have got there a little bit earlier? What if I would have been the one driving? What if I would have took a different car? What if I was the one who went on the airplane instead of them? However you lose a person, right? It's just like, we can't control that. We really can't control how they leave this planet and how they leave this earth, right? When we come to this existence, we come with an expiration date. And I hate to say it that way, it sounds so blunt, but it's the truth. We come knowing that one day we are all going to leave. We all have a specific storyline here that we are here to play out, and we're all going to leave this earth in a certain way. And there's nothing that you or I or anyone can do that can change that. And that's how I was able to kind of get out that loop and get out that storyline of the would've, should've, could've, and have a deeper meaning and a deeper understanding of what it means, someone's mortality, like to really understand not only a person's mortality, but our own, right? We're not immortal. We all will leave this planet one day, and we are all going to leave in different forms and different waves, and everything that has played out in our life is based on a path that's higher than us. Every decision that we're making as we go along, we are contributing to that path, whether we feel it's good or bad. We are still contributing to it, and we're here to play out that path. So you have to get in line kind of with that train of thought to be able to really release that sense of guilt that you could have changed the way something happened. And the truth is, we just can't. As much as we want to, as much as we want to protect our loved ones and just change their fate, it's just not up to us. Like I said, we just don't have that much power. The third thing I definitely suffered with was, did we do enough, right? And that kind of piggybacks off what I've kind of said before. Did we protect her enough? I think in all of us, when I say all of us, meaning all family members, I think we all kind of fell into that loop. Did we do enough? Did we protect her enough? And I know for me, I didn't stay trapped in that too long, because I know I did all I can possibly do with what I had, right? But for me, in regards to did I do enough, kind of looped into the boundaries. Like, I set these boundaries with my mom, and I had to do it a couple of years ago, because like I said, she had a hard time respecting boundaries. It's just like, or your time is my time, or your time should be dedicated to me, and it was hard finding that line with her. And once you had the line, you had to set it. One thing about my mom is that while I love her to death, my mom was really draining at times, right? Like I said, it required a lot of energy and a lot of caring for her when she was around. And sometimes I used to just get drained, you know, I needed a break. And I spoke about how she was with me for months. She was with me since December, and when I took her back, I only took her back I think once for maybe a couple of days, and then I ran back to go pick her up and drive her back, and even that was draining for me, right? Some things, it wasn't directly her, it was just a link to, you know, when I would receive her, the things I needed to do, right? I needed to drive an hour and a half to go get her. I had to drive an hour and a half to go bring her back. When she was with me, I would do, you know, everything for her. So if we would go shopping, I was the one carrying the bags. At times, like, I used to treat my mom like a baby at times, you know, like at times she couldn't even zip her coat because her alignment was a little bit off. I started noticing that her alignment was off, and her hands used to shake from sometimes just low sugar, high blood pressure, like different things. The diabetes used to make her shake, so she used to shake a lot. So she used to just be like this at times. So just for her to just like zip her coat, it would just be hard for her to put on her seatbelt, would be hard for her to open like a car door, would be hard for her to carry packages. And so when my mom was around, I pretty much did it all for her. You know, I would carry her bags, and I would help her put on her shoes. So I would do a lot for her, and I was okay with that. I feel like as a child, when your parent gets older, you know, they take care of you their whole entire life, and that's the way my mom was. My mom at one point was a single parent, and then she was not, but she was always there for us. You know, we had a parent that wasn't, and she stepped in and she did both roles, and it was hard for her. I could only imagine. If you're a single parent, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, the struggles and the strength, and how scared and you know, you are when you become a single parent. But you know, they find the strength and they combat that, and they get over it, and they knock it out the park. And that's who my mom was. My mom was like a warrior. And so when she needed me, I was always there. But it wasn't always easy, you know. It wasn't always easy balancing my own life and things I wanted to do with, you know, trying to be there for my mom. And I talked about some of her struggles and you know, the depression that she dealt with, and that's hard, trying to be someone else's joy and try to always uplift them. You know, it requires a lot of energy exchange, and it's very emotional when you're talking about someone like your mom. We're not talking about a stranger, you know, so it's hard to see them in their lowest point, especially someone that you've seen as a warrior, and they've been your hero their whole life, and then you just you know, they get to the point that they can't do for themselves the way they used to do for them. It's not an easy task. So at times, like I said, I needed a break, and that's one thing I struggle with. Like, you know, did I do enough? Did I push her away at the time that she needed me the most? And for me, the answer was no, and I knew it was no, because I was always, I mean always, there for my mom. Like, I thought back into scenarios and situations whenever she needed me. Even if she didn't tell me she needed me, I was always there. I didn't miss a birthday. I have never missed a Christmas. I have never missed a holiday. Even New Year's, I think I've always spent with my mom. I think I spent like one New Year's or one or two away from my mom. And whenever I had, you know, boyfriends and partners over the years, it's like, you know, I never strayed away from my family. My family was always my core, was always my center. You know, I knew how to have those healthy boundaries. Like I said, I had to establish them. But I never abandoned my mom or left her alone, or in times where I felt she really, really needed me, that I was just like, peace, nah, I can't be there. Never, 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 never. I never gave my mom problems over the years. As a kid, I was a pretty respectful kid. I mean, we had our thing, you know. I think every parent and child goes through the growing pains and the struggles. And even that, you know, when you lose a person, you think about all of that. It takes you down a road. Like, you think about your whole entire life. And you start feeling, like I said, guilty about times that you were just like rude to your mom, or not there for your mom, or times that you felt like you should have dealt with the situation better. But like I said, it's growing pains, and it's like, when you know better, you do better. So a lot of times people go through that. They go back to like all the past of times there's just struggle. Maybe they had a falling out with their mom and they didn't speak to their mom, and they go back thinking about all of that stuff, and this guilt just like hit you like a ton of bricks. And the way to combat that is to really understand, like I said, you deal with things as with the knowledge base that you have, right? And also with the evolution, at the evolution point that you're in. So meaning my 15-year-old self is not my 30-something-year-old self. My 30-year-old something self is not going to be my 40-year-old something self. My 40-year-old something self is not going to be my 50-year-old something self, and so on and so forth, right? We keep growing, we keep developing, we learn as we go along, and we learn also about relationships and how to treat people and how important they are to us, right? We have to learn that, right? We don't come into this world, we're not just born into this world knowing it all. No, we have to go through certain circumstances and losses and things just within our life to be able to get to that point that we start understanding how important our parents are, that we start understanding that our parents are actually people with emotions, that we start understanding they have struggles, right? We stop seeing them as a superhero and start realizing like, wow, like my parents went through a lot. They've done a lot for us, right? They sacrificed for us. Like it takes going through development to be able to get to that point. So when you get to the point that you're stuck in that guilt and you're like, oh, I can't believe I did this back then, and I can't believe I spoke to my parent this way, I can't believe I did this. You have to be able to, one, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself, right? You gotta forgive yourself before anything. And then, you know what? Ask them for your forgiveness, because they are listening, even though if they're not here. You can always speak to them out loud and ask for their forgiveness. And that's something I did. After my mom passed, that's the first thing I did. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I asked her for forgiveness for not going to go get her. I asked her for forgiveness for everything that, like any pain I might have caused her, unintentionally, of course, because sometimes the way we speak to our parents, we forget to have love in our heart, right? We're just so stuck in emotions and in that combative energy that we don't realize that sometimes our words can hurt, right? So I asked for forgiveness, right, for all those times. And like I said, for me, thankfully, it wasn't a lot of forgiveness I had to really ask for, because when I thought about like the type of daughter I am and the type of person I am, and even in those hurtful times that might have caused my mom pain, it was never intentional. And one thing I did get to do right before my mom passed was to thank her for everything she's ever done for me, because my mom was a great source, and she was a rock in recent times when I really needed someone, right? She was there. No one's gonna be there for you like a parent, especially a mother. Like, they just rock hard with you, right? It's just amazing how selfless mothers can be. And not all, because there's some mothers that they're just like, ugh, but if you have that selfless mother, that's like amazing. If you still have them with you, you need to start thanking them more for everything they have done for you and the blessings that they are in your life and will continue to be, right? But like I said, with this situation, with this guilt that you would feel, the way you get through it is to forgive yourself. Ask them for forgiveness and understand that, we work with what we have when we have it. As we grow older, as we mature, as we are able to balance our emotions, and we're able to come to a place that our mental capacity is thinking clearer, we get to appreciate and speak to people in a better place, right? And we get to really acknowledge how amazing they are. And that's all you can do, right? That's really all that you can do. So forgiveness is going to be super important for you when you're battling that guilt for whatever you feel you have done, or if you felt you let someone down, or you felt you weren't there for them enough. Have that forgiveness within your heart, and just understand that while they're gone, guilt is pretty much a wasted emotion. The only thing it serves is for improvement. So if you ever feel that guilty of something that you have done and you're having a hard time releasing it, understand that that situation was meant to help you grow, to help you become a better version of yourself, to help you improve, to help you bring a reality of what you have done, or what you felt you haven't done, or what you felt you couldn't be to someone or something. You know, you have that option. Every day we have a new beginning. Every day, as sure as the sun is going to rise. That's an insurance, as long as you're breathing and you're here on this earth, that you can always start anew, right? So whatever you felt you lacked, you didn't have, whatever it may be, you get an opportunity to change yourself. So let that guilt, let that remorse, let that feeling change you. Let it change you. Let it drive you to become a better version of you. So if you felt like, for instance, you haven't been there for a parent, or you didn't see them as much as you wanted to, or you weren't there as much as you want to, and you have another parent still alive, well, you know what? Take all that energy, take all that love, and start filling that into the other parent, right? And and start filling all of your relationships like that. Be mindful of how you want it to be, and then give it to the relationships you still have present in your life, right? Set yourself free. Also understand whatever boundaries and things you put in place to protect your energy and give back to yourself. Never feel guilty for that. And like I said, that's something that I felt guilty for. Like, I set that boundary and I'm like, man, was I being selfish? Was I only thinking of myself? But the truth of the matter is, I really needed the time. At the moment, I really needed the time, and I was really trying to bring in more stability, because I had a feeling COVID was going to be around for quite some time. So I had to figure out different ways of bringing in income, and making sure that my bills were paid, making sure that my mortgage is paid, making sure that I was meeting my car note, making sure that I had food on the table. So even though when I first felt that feeling, it was more like, oh my God, like, what did I do? Did I just put money and an outside source and an opportunity in front of my mom and being there for her, and this is what happened? That's how I originally felt. But when I thought about it in depth, I was like, no, I really didn't do that. I was with her for months upon months, and I poured into her. We had a great time while we were in quarantine together. And she wanted to go home. I took her home. I respected her wishes, and I explained to her the boundaries, and I explained to her what would happen if I take her home. And she kind of deterred from what we just spoke about, right? And so I just, stood in that boundary, even though I gave in, because I said I was going to go get her, and I was going to go get her. But I, that boundary was in place for a reason, right? That boundary was in place for a reason. It was to protect her. It was to protect me. It was to just regain my energy so I can be the best person and daughter to her when she came, with me, to be of service to her. I didn't want to be distracted. I wanted my attention to be on her. I didn't want to feel like I was like, okay, Ma, okay, I'm going to take 5 hours now to go focus on this, right? I'd rather had just wrapped it up, finished it up, and then as well, like, she was on medication that took time to be ordered. She needed to pack her stuff. So it was like I was giving her that opportunity. So it wasn't only one-sided. It was a decision that I was making for everyone involved, right? Everyone, and thinking of the best for everyone. So when I look back at it, I'm like, no, it wasn't a selfish decision. It wasn't a decision based on outside sources or opportunities and things of that sort. It was, I needed it. I needed to focus. And that was something that helped me kind of release it. So you got to put things in perspective. So that's basically what I'm trying to get at, and basically what I'm trying to say. We have to put things into perspective of why we did what we did. Why did we act the way we acted at the moment? And we acted in regards to what knowledge we have present at the current time. Did I know my mom was going to pass away? Of course not. In retrospect, thinking back, if I would have known, would I have went to go get her? Of course I did. But did I know that then? No, I did not. Did I even think COVID could have been an issue? No, I did not, because she should have been staying home. And after she passed away, I found out that she wasn't staying home, that she was doing things she wasn't supposed to be doing. But it is what it is. I could not control her. No one could control her, and it wind up being the story that it wind up being. So when you're dealing with loss, when you're dealing with grief, it's something that could swallow you. But if you focus on forgiving yourself, forgiving others, releasing, letting go, learning to accept who you were, and then understanding that once you come out of this process, especially the process of grief, you will be a totally different person. Only if you allow it, right? Only if you allow it. And what I mean by that is there's a certain amount of knowledge that you will receive after you lose a person. And only you could turn that knowledge into wisdom, meaning only you can become a better version of you. And I feel like it's a process of evolution when you lose a person, because you not only reflect on so many things about their life, but you're going to reflect about your own life. Like I said, mistakes you've made, things you did, actions you took, behaviors, characteristics. And if you're not liking certain things about your past, only you can change that. Only you can become a better version of yourself. So when you lose someone and you deal with those raw emotions, it could be a beautiful transformation of your life. A lot of people don't see it that way, and when you're deep down in the grief, you're not going to be able to see it that way. But once you start coming out of it, you'll be able to see it that way. You know, I'm kind of at the tail end of it, so I can tell you that you can learn a great deal from this whole experience. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about the grieving process in detail. This video was just a little bit of snippets of my own grieving process and how I, you know, the perspectives I had to embody in order for me to get out of it and become the person that you're seeing in front of you, a person that's able to share it with you, a person that's able to start getting my life back on track, a person that's able to smile again, a person that's able to say, okay, I'm ready to let go. That doesn't mean I'm letting go of my mom. My mom will forever be in my heart. She'll forever be in my life. She will always be around. And letting her go doesn't mean I love her any less. Letting her go of those heavy emotions doesn't mean I love her any less. Torturing myself in heavy emotions doesn't mean I love her less. It just means that I dealt with it, and I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on to a healthier, more expansive version of myself. So guys, I will see you in my next one. Don't miss it. Bye.